What's up? What's up? Can y'all hear? Okay. All right. It's your boy MM2K, D Almighty. Yeah, that's why I'm here. Cold-blooded Sensei. What is going on? I see y'all already in the chat, That's what's up. That's what's up. Yeah, man. Crazy day. Crazy day. Crazy few weeks, really. That's what I want to talk about, man. And I got to do this real quick because I got a plumber coming. Just, quick story as we're letting people fill in. Oh, shoot. So, I've been telling my wife that I wanted to replace our toilet. And I'm horrible at home improvement stuff. I am. But I know how to work on toilets. I used to, I did it when I was young, real, starting off working on my own. And she didn't believe me. She kept hesitating on calling the plumber. And so now, you know what I mean? We got to shut the water. We had to shut it off because the bus started to burst. Thank goodness my mother-in-law's right around the corner. You know what I'm saying? Literally, she's like 3 houses, around the corner. So we're good. But I got to call Roto-Rooter. So they're on their way. Their mugs is quick. They're like, we can be there in a half an hour. I was like, oh, shoot. Well, let me hurry up and do this. No, I'm not. Cold Blood Sensei said, yo, Mo, you gonna talk ish about PlayStation today? It's not my goal, man. It's not my goal because I'm gonna be honest with you. With the recent announcement of PlayStation PS Now, it makes me more interested in that platform. Where I wasn't. I was just waiting for day and date. But we're gonna get into all that, right? Cyrus Burke. Yeah, and then Sushi Marita retiring as well. Yeah, that's why I labeled this big changes at PlayStation. Why? I was pressed for time, so I couldn't find my older video. So let's get into it. Well, you know what? Give me 1 second just to announce this. To say that Ghost Recon Breakpoint is out. What's up, Heath Stevens? And for those of you that are fans of military shooters, I've loved the game. I know there have been some countering voices that didn't like it. I'm not quite sure if military shooters is their cup of tea. But if military shooters are your cup of tea, like my homie Laquan and Rage and me, J-Dubs, Noah, a breath of, we got ponies, Xbots, people that are confused at midlife crisis like myself, and a whole slew of people that love this game. Give it a try. Come and watch out some of these streams that I'm doing on twitch.tv/MightyMost2000, or you can go to HNDC.Live to see me live doing these streams, man. So, just want to let you know that all week I'm going to be doing that in Borderlands 3. All right, so let's get into this. We've seen a lot of changes, right? With PlayStation this year. And more notably, yesterday's news was Shawn Layden being out. And I'm not taking this time to pat myself on the back and say, these are things that I predicted and point back to this, that, and the other. Because I've done previous videos where I explicitly said that, PlayStation Now is going to start and more to emulate Game Pass. But I said to PlayStation fans, don't worry about that because PlayStation is so worried about mindshare, they're not going to do it in a way to rock the boat. But they're going to do it. I said, Shawn Layden went all in on 2018 and it's had a negative effect on 2019. And I said, keep it. I just said that like 3 podcasts ago while I was doing all I hope in between all my yelling and spitting everywhere on the mic that y'all were able to catch that. Where I said, keep an eye on Shawn Layden. And here, almost a week after I said that, he's no longer there at the company. So there are certain, and then now, we talked about PlayStation and all that. And then The Last of Us 2, I kind of touched on where I said, hey, you know, the game looks like that it's going to be, you know, their biggest and most ambitious game, but fans that are being conscientious about being price gouged, they're going to speak up and they're going to raise their concerns, and they need to. You know what I'm saying? Because normally the multiplayer would be tacked in with the $60 experience, and it sounds like they're taking that experience and it might be something that's going to be standalone, which will likely equate to a extra cost unless people speak up. Okay. So first, let's touch on Shawn Layden. I want to mainly touch on Shawn Layden and PlayStation Now. So let me see if I can find this tweet. Again, I'm doing this off the cuff ad hoc. I didn't have a chance to really pull together all my stuff that I wanted to. All right, so let's do this real quick. See this tweet? A lot of people felt some type of way about this tweet. And after the announcement of Shawn Layden, I guess that's as far as it'll increase. No, okay. I said, after the announcement that Shawn Layden was gone, I mentioned in a podcast recently, Shawn Layden took a big all-in gamble on 2018. That's making 2019 look worse than typical for PlayStation. Number one, investor concerns. You had a lot of investors that were saying, don't invest in Sony in 2019 because the PlayStation, if you invest into Sony in 2019, the value of your investment dollar is going to go down. So this is not the year to invest in Sony. That's a big deal. That is a big deal. Then I said lack of fanfare, where in Sony's 24 plus year history of doing so, this is the first time that they've ever been so light on the fanfare. They're doing the state of plays and making some random announcements. But Sony has always been heavy on fanfare. You guys pretty much that was the argument chips against Xbox. Y'all don't show nothing, y'all ain't got nothing to show. Just all that stuff. Paris Game Week and PSX and all that other stuff, you know, and especially at E3. You know. Then there was the 2019 output concerns. You had Days Gone that did not meet critical expectations. And even though it's still making the charts for 2019, as far as I think top 10 all year so far, 2019 is a slow year in gaming. You know, we're seeing lows that we haven't seen since 1998, particularly in the US. You know, didn't get the critical acclaim as far as Metacritic. And if you believe that PlayStation don't pay attention to Metacritic or fall heavily on Metacritic, then you're a fool. You know? Then you have Death Stranding, that even though at the end of the day, I think it's safe to assume that it's going to do well and it's going to win awards, Sony is nervous about it. You know? It hasn't gotten, it hasn't gotten the reception that they would like for it to get. You know what I mean? And then now you have Last of Us 2 multiplayer debacle. Now, I preface it with this. Let's wait and see for details, but was the gamble too big? Now, what was that gamble? For those of you that haven't followed, what's up, 706 Gamer? For those of you that don't follow it, and that's okay. That's what you listen to me for. I don't, you guys have lives and stuff like that, and me, I just have my wife yelling at me while I'm digging through the crates trying to find out all this information for us to discuss here, But if you do your research, or if you look further, you'll see interviews where Shawn Layden talked about this gamble, where they sat down with Shawn Layden and said, hey, Sony has really done a very unorthodox approach this generation. Would you like to talk about it? And he's like, yeah, we did double down on indies. And then when we felt like we were in a good space, I went over to Japan. And I said, Japan, now we want to focus on y'all. We're done with the indies. So I told the people in Japan that were making games, stop with floating on making mobile games. We understand that the PlayStation 3 burnt you, but now we need you back. Now we're ready for you to come back. So then we dissed the indies and we went with y'all. But the bigger gamble was in 2018 to ensure that there was no momentum behind the Xbox One X. They went all in. They released God of War. They did Spider-Man. They did the double dose, right? But then they kept initiative after initiative. They kept on Microsoft's neck. At the last moment, even at 2017, they dropped the price of the PlayStation 4 just to win NPD. So they went all in financially. They didn't balance out. What Sony does is they balance out year to year. They are real big on the market. And Shawn Layden said, no. I want 2018. I want us to go all in on 2018. 2018 has to be phenomenal because we got this goddamn Xbox One X coming out. We're going all in. And he did so knowing that it would have a strain on 2019. And they thought that with the mind share and everything in 2019, that they would be able to stay afloat. Things would be cool. People would still be on a serious high from 2018. And if you look at things, I mean, it's reasonable. We don't know for sure, but it's reasonable to say that they're doing better than Xbox. But like I said, Xbox is the third grader. You're a AAA athlete. You know what I'm saying? If you walk up to the third grader and punch him in the mouth, I'm not impressed. I think you've won one NPD this year. This is after you've sold gangbusters of PlayStation 4s in 2018. So even those of us that are in the fanboy console war and all that other stuff, we may feel that's impressive and that's good bargaining chips. As a Fortune 500 company that lives and die off of investments and financial growth, consistent financial growth, that's not impressive for them. And again, I get it if you haven't done it, but if you've been digging in the crates, like your boy, and you listen to Jack Tretton's interview, and that's still in the back of your mind with Hip Hop Gamer, when Hip Hop Gamer was sitting there cheesing like he was a kid at a candy store. And he said, hey, yo, Jack, now that you're doing your own thing, would you ever collab with Sony again? Thinking that his ultimate answer would be yes. And to his dismay, Jack Tretton said, you know what? I have nothing against Sony. I have some great years at Sony. But at the end of the day, Sony's about Sony. They don't reward individual contributions, nor do they recognize it. That's why I left. And over at Sony, it's purely about Sony. At any given moment, when they feel like that what you're doing isn't panning out for them, you don't get a second chance. You're gone. Shawn Layden took an unorthodox approach to what he thought was a threat, a potential threat. And don't give me that, oh no, Sony wasn't caring about Xbox. If Sony didn't care about Xbox, they wouldn't have told investors and interviewers this year that they're a competitor. A competitor in business is synonymous with a potential threat. They were concerned about Xbox. They did everything that they could to step on Xbox's neck, even at the detriment of 2019. Now, to you, as the fanboy gamer, 2019 might not be a problem for you. But again, we gotta look at stuff from 5,000 feet. This is a company invested in the stock market, a Fortune 500 company. Not showing consistent growth year over year is a problem. It's not just a problem for Xbox. It's a problem for any company that doesn't do it. And when you have companies out the gate that look at your portfolio and they're telling investors not to invest in you, then that's a problem. So you got Shawn Layden sitting in his office and he's like, don't worry about it. Even though we went all in on 2018, do not worry about it. It's going to pan itself out. Death Stranding is coming. We're going to announce The Last of Us 2. We got an eye on everything that Microsoft does, and we're going to step on it. So we'll be able to remain afloat, even though it might not be as good as 2018. And the reception wasn't good enough to the brasses at Sony. So that's why I surmised that he's out. It's as simple as that. Jack Tritton told you. This ain't about fanboy stuff anymore. Now that we're at the critical end of the generation and the war is over and we have a clear victor, now it's time to assess the damage. I get that everybody's riled up and they still want to keep fighting, but the fight is over. Now it's time to assess the punches thrown and what really happened in the ring. So right now, I'm not going to sit afloat in the fanboy console war fodder. I can't do it right now because it's over. Now it's time to assess. So being that now that it's time to assess, I hope that we understand that Sony will say things to us to appease us as consumers. But as a Fortune 500 company, there are certain things that they care about that have nothing to do with our likes as gamers, which are the needs and the wants of the investors that they have to balance with that. So hence why I think Shawn Layden is gone. That's what I surmise. And until we get further information, that's going to be my belief. You know, and again, this isn't news. What I'm saying, I'm not pulling out my ass. You know what I mean? Again, Shawn Layden did an interview. I can't remember what the publication was, but they talked about his unorthodox style of managing managing PlayStation. And he was breaking it down. You know what I'm saying? And by all intents and purposes, even though 2019 was looking not so hot on the investment side, I'm pretty sure Shawn Layden, just off the demeanor and the things that he's done previously, I'm pretty sure he was sitting in it. He was like, don't worry about this, y'all. Days Gone is going to drop, and it's a PlayStation game. It's of the formula that we love. It's going to be in the 80s. That's going to keep fanfare going. Then we're going to announce Death Stranding. It's a Kojima game. That's going to keep fanfare going. And then lastly, we're going to announce The Last of Us 2. That's going to keep fanfare going. And all three of those things have not worked. They have not kept the fanfare going, which gave them bargaining chips to go to the investors and say, look, enthusiasm over our product and services, even though we've dipped financially, our enthusiasm is still high. We are still chopping out NPDs here and there. All of our games that are releasing, you know what I'm saying, or AAA games are still getting high Metacritics. The announcement of our games are overwhelmingly positive on all fronts. So in that case, when you're dealing with investors that think right now, year over year, as far as telling people what to do with their money right now, in a very hawkish system, right? What are Sony's bargaining chips to the investors? I mean, I'm just, for those of you that may be impartial to what I'm saying right now, I want to ask you, and, let me know in the chat. Let's take it out of our realm and let's think about the conversations that they're going to have with the investors. If you're trying to explain, well, let me go back a little bit. You have to show growth year over year. In a non-growth year, then you got to have a counter narrative, mainly consumer engagement. So if you represent Sony and I'm an investor, and you're trying to convince me that even though 2019 financially doesn't look good on paper, here's why it's still going to be a big year for their dollar. What are your bargaining chips? Right? You know what I'm saying? So, with that said, that's what I'm not saying Sony is going to close it. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just helping you guys peer into a world that is more realistic. This isn't just a problem with Sony. This is a problem with any Fortune 500 company. That's why I tell you, once a company goes publicly traded means that they're looking for investors on the stock market. Once they get publicly traded, you are no longer the center of their attention. The center of their attention now becomes the what do you call it? It becomes the investors. You are just a catalyst to those investors. Okay. Now, the way they use you as a catalyst is they say, look at how engaged our consumers are. If you stick with us, your dollar's going to grow. And even in a non-growth year, they say, look, I know on paper things don't look good, but our gamers or our consumers are enthused. Look at this, look at this, look at this. There are non-growth years everywhere, but look at how engaged our consumers are. You're going to see, we're going to beat expectations at the very least. See, when a company has a non-growth year or is perceived they're going to have a non-growth year, then expectations are lowered. And what they normally do is they lower expectations very low so they can still show some type of growth towards the end of the year. So let's just say at the beginning of 2019, MM2K company was expected to make $1 million. But then they looked over some stuff like in January, they're like, oh, things aren't looking good. I think they're not going to reach that $1 million. So I say, fine, this is not going to be the growth year that we anticipated. I anticipate that we're going to make $500,000. When I really know in my heart of hearts, we're going to make $800,000. You see what I'm saying? So they lowball that readjustment of the expectation so things look good. And then you use things like consumer engagement and stuff like that. And this is where fanfare would have done well. And Sony definitely isn't doing the fanfare because I know that was like a mantra we were throwing around. They weren't doing it solely for, oh, we don't care, we're on top. They did it because they had to cut expenses to help keep 2019 as close to 2018 as possible as far as revenue in the black. Now, what do I mean by that? They had to keep their profits close to 2018 as possible, so it didn't look too bad of a drop off. So that's why they cut off all this fanfare. That's why there's no PSX or no Paris game, because again they had to cut expenses because they went all in 2018. It kind of started towards the end of 2017 with the low balling and prices and stuff that they did. And a lot of the initiatives that they had to cut prices, they had to cut expenses again for 2019 because it was going to be so much of a gap in 2018. Where typically Sony would have done something like released a Spider-Man or they wouldn't have double hit like that. They would have released one of those games in 2019 instead. I think God of War would have remained 2018 and then Spider-Man probably would have been 2019. You know what I'm saying? So that's that. All right. Let's go to another. So, again, just to help everybody understand, again, going all the way back to what Jack Tretton said, Sony's about Sony. They don't look at the individual contributions and say, oh, we love you. When you enact something that give you X amount of time, and after X amount of time, you're detrimental to the company, all right, go. So they probably asked for his resignation, or, he got fed up because they were putting pressure on him. You know what I'm saying? Like at some point in time, he overstayed his welcome. And that's why he's not there, because of 2019. That's my assessment. Again, I want to preface it with that. I'm not going all out because I don't, I'm not 100% there, but we have enough evidence on the table to show what happened. And especially with me being in this Fortune 500 world, I completely understand how it works. So with that said, let's go to another tweet. that raised some eyebrows this morning. And that's from my homie. He just doesn't know he's my homie. Daniel Ahmad. He says Sony is dropping the price of its cloud gaming service PlayStation Now ahead of upcoming launches from competitors. Monthly sub is half the price. Now it is $10 per month. Annual is down to $59.99 from $99.99. Games like God of War, it just came out last year, Uncharted 4, and WoW, GTA 5, and Infamous added to. Now, this is the part of the conversation where I say there's an uptick for Sony. That's going to help consumer confidence and help undo some of the bad negative things in 2019 that's happened so far. I think part one was Shawn, Layden, thank you for 2018, but now we're in 2019. Your services are no longer needed. You know what I'm saying? Because now that we're screwed up now, and we're screwed up now because of what you did, we're not happy. So he either said, well, to hell with it, and he rolled, or they said, you know, we would like for you to offer your resignation, please. And to combat that, you know, this ain't coincidence that he leaves and immediately thereafter they announced this. They announced this again to what I spoke to earlier, to balance the fact that 2019 may not be quite 2018, but they're hoping that they can show engagement by getting a whole bunch of people sign up to PlayStation Now. You know what I'm saying? Now. Perfect. Hey, what's up, Ice Queen Gaming? What is going on? This is not a coincidence. Again, appearing to the Fortune 500 world. Somebody goes, new initiatives go out, roll out immediately. Immediately. That's how it works. Again, to combat the problem that they had going into 2019 overall, which was the drop off in growth and compared to 2018, the bad reception that their games are getting at some level. Days Gone, not so great Metacritic to Sony standards. Death Stranding, people are like, what the hell is this? Last of Us 2, which was supposed to be, you speak of it and magical birds and unicorns fly out your mouth and shit. Even with that, now people are upset about multiplayer. Sony is running out of bargaining chips for investors in 2019. This is it. This is it. This is why I say there's an uptick. And again, no more console war stuff right now. We're now in the analysis stage. The fight is over. We have a clear victor. It's Sony. Now it's time to assess. Got to understand why this is being done. This is being done, again, to combat the negative stuff of 2019. And this, I think, is going to be hellified successful. I mean, you got Xbox saying, oh, yeah, well, now I can experience God of War like game. You know, you got Xbox digging, but I bet you, guess what? Now that it's been highly advertised that Sony is looking to place their performance of their service on the Azure servers, and Xbox have already experienced Game Pass on Azure, or already experienced, you know, what they like of Game Pass, they're already going to mentally discern the two and say, oh, well, forget what I heard about PlayStation Now. I'm going to give it a try for $10. Can't beat that with a stick, man. Your boy might even sign up. And this is where I told y'all that this is where my Xbox, y'all gonna get mad at me, but it is what it is. This is where I say Microsoft might get beat to the race with their own shoes, and Sony might beat them with their own shoes on. The biggest thing to me in this service, it's not even that their first party exclusives are in there, but look at this. GTA 5. Damn well the biggest game this generation. I can't think of any other game besides Minecraft that has sold more copies than GTA 5. That is making more money, rather. I'd rather put it like that than GTA 5. GTA 5 stays in generation list after list after list as far as top selling. That's freaking big. And this is where I say, where Sony is going to have bigger and better bargaining chips when it comes to this stuff. The third-party games that blow people's minds that say, ooh, shit, that's in there? The service is of value to me as far as the casual gaming market is concerned. I'm glad somebody in the Fortune 500 world of gaming is listening to MM2K. I'm glad. They're going to have bigger bargaining chips simply because they have more saturation. And this is why Microsoft should have made the investment to get into more homes. Because that speaks volumes to these developers and these publishers. You give them a clear-cut number that exists now, not some ambiguous number that you're trying to get into the future. When you can say, I'm in 100 million homes now, opposed to, I want to potentially reach 2 billion people, that means more than me. The former means more than me than the latter as a developer or publisher. So the simple fact that GTA 5 is in PlayStation Now Plus, wow, that's a direct strike towards the casual market, which each of these companies need to make these subscription services mean something. Wow. Now we can sit there now to the homie Cold Blood Sensei's point in the chat. He says, Game Pass. We have Gears 5, PS Now, GTA 5, bro, it's easy. What is better? It's not about, see, this is where my Xbox brethren is messing up. They're looking at content quality at a hardcore gamer level and not content value at an overall consumer level. On any given Sunday, I would rather play Gears 5 than GTA 5. But GTA 5, as a hardcore gamer, that's what I'd rather do. But GTA 5 is a freaking monster. And on any given Sunday, regardless of what MM2K want to do, or any of the 1 to 5% of you guys listening to this stuff would do, the vast majority of consumers are going to pick GTA 5 over Gears 5. So to my homie Cold Blood Sensei's point, get with the program. This is what I'm talking about. We had Game Pass that applauded 3 million subscribers for Gears 5. Over 3 days, Gears 5, the Ultimate Edition, which is synonymous with those Game Pass subscribers, dropped off the face of the earth as far as the charts are concerned. And you saw those 3 million people flock to no other games in Game Pass to boost them up. The Devil May Cry's that y'all said, the Devil May Cry 5 that y'all said, ooh, that's a great game. And yes, it is a great game. The Metro Exodus that y'all said, ooh, that's a great game. That is a great game. Kingdom Come Deliverance that y'all said, ooh, that's a great game. That is a great game. Y'all said, think like a consumer of 2K. What the hell's wrong with you? But I am. Because guess what? When those 3 million dropped from Gears 5, did they boost any of those games up on the charts? No! They just simply stopped being engaged in Game Pass. So this is what I'm talking about. Microsoft has to get the games that are going to pull the masses in there, and they got to get them in there now. Whether it's games that they're making themselves, AAA games, or games like GTA 5. And the fact that that Sony got GTA 5, that's going to help out their service a whole heck of a lot. For Sony to be able to say, do you have God of War? No, I haven't played it. I ain't got a PlayStation. Oh, you ain't played God of War Uncharted? No, I ain't got a PlayStation. Well, what if I told you that you can get God of War, Uncharted 4, and GTA 5 with our service for only $10 a month? Huh? And imagine this, y'all. Being that they're soon going to be powered by the Azure service, when their shit hits phones and tablets, people are going to be able to play GTA 5 on their phones and tablets thanks to who? PlayStation! I really need my Xbox brethren to understand the gravity of how important it is to think about the casual gamer before imposing your beliefs onto the casual market. And I completely understand. Let me say this. I did it too, but I had to wake up and transition. When the Xbox One X was released, I remember going back and forth with my homie Porter Rock. And I said, Porter Rock, gamers are going to want bigger and better. And Porter Rock said MM2K, but they're already invested into the PlayStation ecosystem. Their games are already there. They've already dropped X amount of money. Casuals don't think like us, where they're willing to throw away all that money and start all over again on a new platform. Unless it's like off the Richter scales. And just having a more powerful console isn't going to do that. And I said, Porter Rock, you're crazy. It's going to happen. And Microsoft is going to push the hell out of it. Sony is worried about it. That's why they dropped the price of the PlayStation 4 at that Black Friday sale and thingy, just to do that. And he said, you don't understand. You ain't been doing this long enough, bucko. You don't understand Microsoft's game plan. They're all in on the S, and you don't understand how the typical casual works. You need to get on your game. And he was right. He was absolutely right. Casuals were not going to trade in their Xboxes alone, their PlayStations and their whole ecosystem alone, because they don't spend that much money on games. There's a lot of them, but individually they don't spend that much money on games. They're not trading in everything just because there's a slightly more powerful box that they hear nobody plays on. You know what I'm saying? It was indicative of not only the box being more powerful, but not Microsoft heavily pushing that box. And they didn't because they made the S their forefront console. And people like me, thinking how I think as a hardcore gamer, tried to put my mind state on the casual gaming market. And I was wrong. So I had to wise up. And now that I dig in the crates and I look at everything and I parse everything down the middle, I'm able to separate my own personal likes and dislikes from what the casual gamers are going to do. What I did is I thought I was embedded enough in the casual gamers, being that I was at GameStop. Oh, hold on one second. This might be my plumber. Hold on. Yep, my plumber's here. So with that said, people, I'm just gonna end off with this. It's been a roller coaster ride in 2019. And I hope that you guys understand why these things are happening. This is not to bash PlayStation or Microsoft. It's just to say to you guys, as you're out here in these gaming streets and these Twitter streets, what you should be lobbying for, because you are lobbyists. That's how these companies look at you. You have more influence than you know. Trust me, I know. My company, we combed over social media like crazy. All of them were doing it. So you need to understand what you need to lobby for to be effective. PlayStation, continue to lobby against them trying to gouge you out on that Last of Us 2 multiplayer. and tell Sony to focus on y'all 24/7. The Shawn Layden model, even though it did wonders in 2018, it's not consistent. So, that's what y'all should lobby for. Greatness is continuous. Xbox people, y'all need to lobby for more fanfare to be within Game Pass, to make it a value across the board, because that fanfare with the casuals is going to subsidize the games that we want. Don't assume that gamers think things are value that we think are value. We only represent 1 to 5%. But with that said, I want to thank everybody for coming out. I appreciate it. I'm gonna deal with the stuff with the plumbing, and then I'll be back on. But until then, peace.